welcome back to Serah's computer sessions. So in the last two videos, I had published two different songs on one single theme, and that was data types. Thanks a lot for all those who supported me, all those who subscribed to my channel, all those who liked those songs and shared it to the maximum. Thank you so much. See, that was just a trial. I just wanted to know whether I could do such thing. So actually I'm planning these song type of tricks for the difficult portions that come across when I teach, as well as for other computer subjects. So I hope that your support will be with me whenever I'll try new things. So in this video I have started statements. Okay, so without much delay, let's move on to the video. Okay, the last three videos was about data types. I hope that my viewers have watched the three videos. I had even given two songs with this theme of data types. So today I will be starting on with statements. Okay, so what is actually a statement? See, when we use a language for communication, say for example English, okay, we express whatever is there within our mind through sentences, right? Even if it is anger, even if it is happiness, even if it is sadness, the other person who listens or who is listening to us will understand what we are going through our words, and words are connected to form sentences, right? Similarly, in C programming, we have statements similar to sentences in English. We have statements in C programming. Every single line that can be executable is actually a statement inside a program. Okay, so these statements can be classified into different types. Say like in English, we express questions, and the question statement or sentence will be different from an exclamatory sentence. That will be different from an active and passive sentences. So we have different kinds of sentences whichever language we take. Okay, so likewise in programming languages, especially in C also, we have different types of sentences, and depending on the nature of that sentence or a statement, the compiler takes appropriate actions. See, like if we are talking to a person, okay, and we are so happy and we are talking happily to a person, maybe that person will also enjoy that. Okay, but if we are getting angry over someone, okay, they will definitely react to the different emotion that we are expressing onto them. Likewise, for all the statements, different kinds of statements, depending on the nature of the statement, the compiler takes an appropriate action. Okay, so we ought to know about the different kinds of statements, then only we can actually make the compiler do a job and give us the desired solution for each and every problem that we are going to do in C programming. Okay, so statements are really very much important. Now, every single statement will have a syntax or a predefined syntax. Now, I think syntax, I'm actually uttering this word syntax for the first time in my class. So, let me tell you what a syntax is actually. See, for every sentence that we speak or write, it will have a format. If it is a question, you have to end it with a question mark, right? And if it every different sentences have a different kinds of rule for expressing it or for writing it on, right? So for C programming also, every statement has a particular format in which it has to be written. Okay, so we are actually going to study those formats in these videos, in which I will be explaining about the different kinds of statements, and this format is called as syntax. Okay, now most of the statements are terminated by a semicolon. Like, see, in English, we have a termination symbol as full stop. When we see a full stop, we know that that sentence has ended. Likewise, in C programming, we have semicolon as the termination symbol. But there are exceptions. See, in some of the statements, we don't actually require a semicolon to show that the sentence is getting terminated. Okay, we will study it one by one. So let's first see what actually a statement is and the different classifications of statements here. Okay, now if more than one kind of statements are grouped together, we can actually group together multiple statements. And if we group like that according to the requirement of the program, we say, or we call that group as a block, either as a block of statement or as a statement block or simply a block. Okay, or blocks. Now, these statements can be simply called as an instruction. Okay, whatever a statement lines of code we are typing inside a program, they are all instructions given to the compiler to work on it, right? So they can be simply called as an instruction. Now, let us go into the classification of statements. Okay, so statements can be classified into many. One is declaration, another is expression, compound, labeled, and control. What are they? Declaration, expression, compound, labeled, and control. Now the control statements can be again subdivided into three, and they are selection, iteration, and jump. Now in this video I am planning to actually take only the first four, and they are declaration, expression, compound, and labeled. And control statement I will be teaching as another video, probably the next video. Okay, so let us first see what a declaration statement is all about. Okay, what do you mean by declaring? See, I had already mentioned when I was teaching data types that whatever data we use in a program should be stored in memory. It should be specified in the program that we are using these many data. Okay, so data, we cannot just simply put the data on, we have to use a variable. See, we can simply use data, but then mostly whichever has to be stored in memory has to have a container on which it has to be stored, and that container is known as variable. I had taught everything pertaining to data and variables in my previous videos. So when you are actually mentioning the data that is used in a program, you are actually declaring that yes, I will be using these many datas in the program. Compiler, please note. Okay, so that is the only objective of declaration statement. We are communicating to the compiler that we will be using certain data, and these are the data or the variables that we will be using. Okay, so what are all the tokens or the items that is required in a declaration statement? First one is the variable name. The next one is the type of the variable or type of the data which we are going to store in that particular variable. Next is the value of that particular variable. And the next one is the description. Description is purely optional. Description, or otherwise you can call it as comment, actually explains in simple English language what the data is all about, or what are we going to store in the data, or what does the data signify inside a program. See, usually when we study programming, we use minimum comments or descriptions inside a program, but it is always good to have a proper described program. Because when you for example, if you are creating or writing a larger program or a package, for instance, like which might include one or more programs collectively, the programmer will tend to get confused after a while, when he will edit or debug the program. So in order to avoid that, it's always better to describe what are you going to do in each and every statement. Okay, but still it's not compulsory. So these are the four things that actually a declaration statement will contain. Now let's look into the syntax of a declaration. Yes, syntax means how should you write a declaration statement inside a inside a program using a C programming. Okay, or when you use C as a programming language. How should you write the declaration statement? Okay, it has a format, and that format is type, name, semicolon. Remember, semicolon is used as the termination symbol, or simply put, a terminator. Okay, and you can have a description. Now whenever, if you're writing description, you have to include the description within a pair of forward slash and asterisk symbol. Yes, comments are always denoted likewise, like use a forward slash asterisk symbol, then write your comment, and then you can end it up with an asterisk symbol and a forward slash. Always remember that comments are written like this. Now see the syntax, it includes a variable name, and this variable name should be preceded with the type of the data. Okay, I hope that you know what data type is now. Let us see examples. See, int sum. So why is sum used? Yes, I'm using sum to store the sum of maybe 2 or 3 numbers, or maybe more than that. Okay, so sum is used to store the result or the sum, and that is the description. And if you are using sum inside your program, sum as a variable inside your program, you have to mention sum preceded by its type. So for instance, here in the example, I have taken sum as an integer variable, so the type will be obviously int. Let us see another example. Int n equal to 0. Here you can see a value also associated with the variable. So I'm assigning some initial value into this variable n. So this assignment is purely known as initialization. Okay, so here in this step you can see two processes going on. One is declaration and the other one is initialization. Okay. See, since I am actually teaching declaration statements now, here you can see that after statements there is declaration and definition. So both come together, and that too inside the statement only. So I'm planning to mention declaration and definition, what is the differences and all here itself. Okay, so that it will be easy for me and you to understand. Okay, so let's move on to the differences between a declaration and definition. Generally, let me tell you the general difference between declaration and definition statement. You have already seen what actually a declaration statement is and what it contains, right? It contains name, type, initial value if any, and a description as comments. So it introduces to the compiler the variable or the list of variables that will be used by the programmer inside the program. But definition is a bit different. See, whatever variables you use inside the program, that should have a memory allotted for it, right? So the process of allocation of memory is actually known as definition. So declaration is just introducing to the compiler. Definition is but actually allocating a specified memory inside the main memory. Okay, but in C, here in C programming, see, when you write a statement, the declaration statement int a, okay, inside C programming, both declaration and definition takes place. That means, yes, you are introducing to the compiler about the variable and what the variable does and type and all, as well as the memory is being allocated. Seeing the data type, the compiler knows that it needs 16 bits of memory in a 16-bit machine. So it will directly allocate the number of bits needed for this particular variable. Okay, but if you have to only declare and not define, okay, see, you might think, why is there an option like that, only declaration and not definition? If I'm going to explain it here, it will be really confusing for beginners to understand. So I'm not like explaining why, but there will be circumstances, sorry, where programmer wishes only to declare a variable and not to define, not to allocate memory along with the declaration. Okay, if it is the case, then you have to use a keyword extern in front of the type, extern int a. If you write a statement like extern int a, only declaration will take place and not the definition. Memory will not be allocated when compiler sees the sentence during execution. Okay, so if you have to declare it later in the program, you have to repeat this without the extern keyword somewhere later in the program, then the declaration also will take place. Okay, now why such kinds of differences, I'm not going to deal it right now in here. Okay, so I hope you understood that in C, if you just write the declaration statement, the compiler or OS will allocate memory also along with the declaration. That means declaration and definition takes place at the same time. Okay, now please understand that definition is actually a superset of declaration. I hope you know the set theory and stuff like that. So definition is like lying outside declaration. Okay, so now next we'll see what initialization is. I think I had already explained it in my earlier slide. Int a equal to 0. If you are giving a value, if you are assigning an initial value to a variable during declaration, that is known as initialization. It is always good to assign initial values to the variables that you're going to use inside a program in order to avoid errors, in order to avoid confusions. But then it's not a compulsory criteria to initialize all the variables that you use. So from the line explanation given here, you can see that 0 is just an initial value to the variable a, and this value can change at any instance during the execution process of that program. Okay, this value 0 can be overwritten by a new value somewhere later in the program during execution. Now, multiple definitions. You can give definitions in one single statement, but defining more than one variables. If you have 4 to 5 variables with the same type, and you have to define all those 4 to 5 variables, you can just write one single statement which will contain multiple definitions. Okay, here you can see that I've used 4 variables, a, b, sum and num. So four variables are being defined in one single statement. So since it is a one single statement, I've used only one semicolon as the terminator at the end, whereas all the variables are separated by comma. And I have initialized 2 variables. Hope you understood what actually a declaration and definition, the differences are. And now in this topic, I should actually explain the locations where variables can be declared. But since I have not taught functions, I'm not dealing with locations now. Whenever I'll teach functions, it will come soon. I will be coming back to this topic and dealing with the locations. Now, since we have almost finished declaration, let us see the next set of statements, and they are expression statements. Okay, what do you mean by expressing something? Expressing what you have in your mind to someone. Yeah, the concept is similar here. An expression followed by a semicolon. So expression statements have semicolon as a termination symbol. The syntax is expression and a semicolon. Please note that the expression is optional. That means you can just give a line, a statement with only semicolon, and that category of statements are known as null statement. They are also expression statements. Almost all the statements that we write inside a C program are considered as expression statements. Basically, when you explain expressions, or when you take expressions as a topic in programming, you can actually categorize expressions mainly into two: arithmetic expressions and logical expressions. Yes, it is true. See, whatever arithmetic calculations you perform inside a program, they are expression statements if they are terminated by a semicolon. Whatever logical calculations you do inside a program, if they are terminated by a semicolon, yes, they are also expression statements. So let us see those statements which can be basically considered as expression statements. Statements that compute new values for variables. See, variables when used, the values assigned to variables changes according to the calculations that is performed inside the program during execution. So whenever new values are computed, all those statements can be considered as expression statements. Now, statements that include a function call. Yes, I have not taught functions, but then just understand that functions are a block of statements. I hope you know what a block of statement is, because we have already covered that in simple sentences. So when statement blocks are written so that they perform a job, a function, they are called as functions. Okay, so when you call a function, functions should be called inside a program. I'll be teaching it in detail, don't worry. So those statements can be called as expression statements. Now let's see at examples of expression statements. I equal to 0. Yes, of course, this is a declaration statement. This includes an initialization, assigning a value, but still it is something related to an arithmetic expression, right? So this is an expression statement. I equal to I plus 1. Here you can see that the value of I is actually incremented by 1. So ultimately the variable I will contain a new value. Okay, so some kind of a new calculation is going on. These are also expression statements. Now the print function, the output statement. Okay, the output statement that we write, whatever we have to print on the screen, it's actually a function. So that print function, the print statement will also is also an expression statement. So what are all the items that can appear in an expression statement? Let's see. Variables can come, operators, constants. Here in the second example, we have written I equal to I plus 1. Plus is an operator. 1 is a constant. Okay, so constants can appear, function calls can appear. Now, as we move on to programming as such, like when we write and practice programs, you will see many other tokens that appear inside expression statement. We'll discuss then later on, you know, different kinds of statements and the nature of the statements and all. Now let's move on to the next category, and they are compound statement. Yes, you have already covered what compound statements are. Let's see it once more. What do you mean by compound? You know, aggregation or collection of different items to form one single entity. That is known as a compound, right? So yes, several expression statements can be grouped together, and when you group together, that group is known as a compound statement. And the grouping, when it happens, even variable definitions can also appear inside a compound statement. They are always enclosed within a curly braces. What do you mean by curly braces? Hope you know this. Left curly braces and right curly braces. So whatever you write, maybe you'll write only one single line within a curly braces, or maybe you'll write maybe 4 to 5 or more lines within a curly braces. Whenever you use set of curly braces, whatever is written inside a curly braces will be considered as a compound statement. Okay, they are also referred to as block statement. You have already, I had already mentioned blocks in my first slide, so that's the same thing here. Block statement is the same as compound statement. Let's see an example. Here you can see an example. I have included two statements within curly braces pair. So this is an example of compound statement. Now let's move on to labeled statement. Okay. What do you mean by label? Yes, they are used to identify something, right? When you stick a label onto your textbooks or notebooks, you are saying that yes, this book is mine. So labels in C programming is used to identify a block of statement. You have already know, I've already covered block of statements or compound statements. So in order to refer them, in order to identify the block, we can use labels from a set of other blocks. Identification means there might be similar kinds of blocks, and you have to identify one unique block. That is why the concept of labels is being introduced. The objective is to actually call or execute a specified block as and when required during program execution. See, usually when programs are executed, they are executed line after line or in sequential manner. But if at one particular line we have to break the sequence and execute something written later down inside the program, we can use labels. Okay, so this actually the labeled statement comes along with the statement known as switch statement. We will be discussing and learning switch statements along with its examples in detail. So I will take labeled statements or explain in detail labeled statement along with the switch statement. Okay, just understand the syntax. It is identifier followed by a colon. That means a label name followed by a colon, not semicolon. It will be a colon. Okay, for example, a colon or 1 colon. Okay, so that is an example. I've not included examples here just to avoid confusion. You'll not understand what is it. So we'll study label statements when we learn switch statement. Now the next set of statements are, or the last set of statements are control statements. So I think it will be better if I take control statements as another video. So okay, hello. So I hope that today's class was useful for all of you. See, statements could have been taken in one single class, but then I decided to divide it into two and take control statements as the next video, because if beginners are there to watch my class, I think they will not be benefiting from my video if I just explain it all in one single class. So I wanted everyone who's watching me to understand it clearly, and that is the reason why I had divided this simple topic into two. So hope you understood this class. So the next class will be about control statements, and they are also simple. And so thanks a lot for all those who have subscribed to my channel, and please like, share, and subscribe. Those who are watching me for the first time, please subscribe to my channel. And one more thing I want to convey is that I will be trying to create new songs for the difficult topics that I teach, as well as for the difficult topics of other computer subjects. That's just because I have come across certain students in my teaching life. They cannot be called as weak students, but some because of some reason they are not able to understand the concepts that are inside the computer domain. So if these songs type of classes help students who are out there who cannot understand the concept, at least they can just because of the music and because of the rhythm and all, they can study the song and they can go and write the exam and pass the examination without much problem. So that is the reason why I thought of trying something new, something creative like this. Thanks a lot once again for all those who supported me, and I hope that you will share my classes to the maximum, even to the school students, to the parents who have children going to school. I mean the high school and 11th and 12th. Okay, I hope that I will be of some use to all the students out there. Okay, so thank you once again. Thanks for watching. God bless you.